We're going to see what happens. Hopefully, they're going to capture this animal. Hopefully, they're going to capture it.
Has Kash Patel told you why it's been so difficult for the FBI to identify who the shooter is?
Well, it's always difficult. So far, we've done a very good job of doing it with Charlie, with the various times this has happened. They've done it in pretty much record time. But you really have to ask the school a little bit more.
Right. So that's President Trump talking about the fact that the animal who attacked Brown University and essentially executed one of the students needs to be captured as soon as possible before more lives are lost. It's been almost 72 hours and still nothing has turned up. Now, we have a video coming from law enforcement that shows some CCTV footage of the suspect, and we'll just show a bit of it, and then you let us know what you think about what exactly is going on. Because for a school that has over 800 cameras on campus, how come there's nothing, no footage of this attack happening? It is very suspicious, and honestly, I'm not sure if anyone is talking enough about this.
This is the first video that we're showing you. This is the individual walking. It's on the sidewalk of Benevolent. And this is prior to the incident. Here we go again with is this video too, Mike. Again, you see him walking. Move on to the third video. This is some photos of this individual.
So that's a video basically obtained from CCTV cameras from the vicinity of the university. And it's just been released from private home cameras. But what exactly is going on with the cameras that come from the school? The school has over 800 of them. How come we don't have more footage coming from the school? Okay, that's a question that needs to be answered. Okay, so the FBI essentially right now has put up a $50,000 bounty. Well, not a bounty, but a reward for information on this suspect or person of interest. Now, we've talked about this for several days now. And essentially, right now, we're hearing the usual suspects jumping on the bandwagon to scream about wanting more gun control. Now, we have someone who essentially is on video claiming that she's been through one mass shooting, and then she's lived through this one, and she's calling for gun control.
They're still on lockdown, so no one's been able to. The only people that have been able to move around are the people that they've already evacuated the buildings and they've brought them to the reunification center. But like all my friends who are in libraries, to my knowledge, are still there, and they've been like kind of barricaded into one common area with police. So no one's able to move right now. Obviously, you never expect it to actually happen, but it's not surprising because we see how often it happens. You always have this naive belief that like, oh, well, it won't happen to me. And obviously it has. And now there's more kids like myself who've been through 2 school shootings. And I think that's kind of just representative of the situation that the inaction of Congress has put us in.
Right. So she's essentially calling for gun control. But there is gun control. There are laws on the books. The laws are not being enforced as they should, because when you have mentally unhinged people, people that should be on a national security watch list, okay, they don't make it to the watch list essentially because the people who manage the watch list are busy chasing down moms or dads who don't want boys in girls' washrooms. Okay, they would rather put Catholics on those watch lists than putting people who are actually dangerous to society on the watch list. That's what I think. Okay, now she essentially is saying, based on her bona fides. Now, I don't want to make light of it by calling it that, but she has a bona fide of having survived 2 mass shootings, and she wants to call on Congress to do a better job at gun control. Now, she's one of those people who ask for something that already exists or more of something that already exists. And then they refuse to look outside of their country to see what that looks like when it's actually enforced. And there's no other example right now than what took place the day after this shooting. You had the Hanukkah shooting in Australia. Okay, now Australia has the most, or at least one of the most strictest enforcements of gun control, and yet this happened.
¿Qué está pasando? ¿Dónde es? Alicia, escucha, Alicia, porque me pasa algo. Algo está pasando, pero no sé qué. Pero ¿a dónde va la duro?
So Australia takes away its citizens' guns, and then things like this happen. Okay, about 10 people at Bondi Beach have been killed as a result of stricter gun control. Are guns things that need to be regulated because of how dangerous they are? Yes. Are there laws on the books to enforce certain kinds of control to ensure people are kept safe? Yes. So where's the problem? Where is the problem? I think in places where there's stricter gun control, we do see a disproportionate amount of gun violence, because the people who tend to want these guns are people with ulterior motives. And they know that they live in areas, or they operate in areas where most people don't own guns. And so they have an audacity to them to go out in public and do things like this. That is my theory. Okay. I need you to let me know in the chat if I'm wrong. Right. The only thing the Australian government, okay, has done so far was to make sure that its unarmed, law-abiding citizens are now sitting ducks. They're unable to defend themselves. Okay. Having more people with access with firearms who are law-abiding and sane people is a deterrent to unhinged extremists stepping out in public and simply firing at random. Now we have the Labour MP, Lola McEnvoy, who says this about the situation. And of course, the woke talking points, okay, take center stage at times like this. We've heard the talk about, oh, we need more gun control. And then now that it's been clear that the people who attacked the Jewish community at the beach, who were essentially starting the Hanukkah celebrations, were people that, it's not politically correct to talk about them. They're from a sect or from a religion that are essentially a protected sect. You hear about Islamophobia, but have you ever heard of Christianophobia? It doesn't exist. Islamophobia is essentially a made-up word that was created to protect this group of people. For some reason, they need protection because it turns out that a bunch of them tend to like to fly planes into buildings or strap explosives around themselves and run into crowds of unarmed people and blow themselves up, or raid unarmed villages in northern parts of African countries and kidnap their daughters and force them into marriages, or run into villages and slaughter everyone there simply because those villages are predominantly Christian. Oh yes, they need to be protected. Well, she goes ahead and gives this spiel when she's talking about this situation.
don't want to speculate on what the factors are that have contributed to this awful tragedy that seems to be of a huge scale. You know, the fact that we know that 10 people have lost their lives today is utterly horrendous, and you know, my heart breaks for those people and their families and for the communities affected across the world. I think it's important to note that the escalation of this narrative of who we're against and how much we want to divide each other and how much we want to attack each other, that is really at the core of a lot of the problems that we have in the country at the moment. And I firmly believe that people are good and that given the opportunity, they will look out for each other. And I just want to say that as much as possible, we should try and detoxify the way that we think of people who aren't like us, because our diversity in this country is our strength.
Yeah, so there's more of that woke spiel about diversity being our strength, but we'll talk about that later. I want to bring up something, okay, that I need to say, because when you walk away from the basic foundations of Western civilization, and that is the Christian worldview, the Christian worldview believes in original sin. People are not basically good. They are not originally good. People are born in sin, and in their hearts, there is a wickedness that can only be cured by receiving a savior, Jesus. Now, whenever you have a society or a group that rejects this basic understanding of original sin, you have people who expose their societies to crimes like this because you think everyone is basically good. Everyone basically wants the same thing. And you lose that reality that there is an evil, malicious presence in the heart of every single person, and they need a savior. And as long as you don't hold on to that reality, you let in people assuming that these people are basically good, and they will sign any paper you want them to sign. They will take any oath or vow that you want them to take, and then you're like, oh yeah, now you're one of us. Meanwhile, they know deep in their hearts that they are not one of you, and they will never be one of you. And every chance they get, they will ensure that they chip away at your society until it becomes a mirror image of the societies they fled from, right? That is the reality. So all of the woke gobbledygook about diversity being our strength, no, it's not our strength. You have people who leave their countries. They have to come to your country because they love your country and because they want to assimilate. They shouldn't want to come and enforce their own traditions and beliefs into your culture, and then you make excuses for them by saying diversity is our strength. That is suicidal empathy, and now we're seeing it play out in real time. Now, gun control could have been enforced in a society where everyone is basically good. You don't need guns, you don't need to defend yourselves, and you know what? That narrative is essentially failed, because we now know that anyone who attempts to enforce that in their societies essentially is courting more crime, because the criminals believe that they are in a society that lacks the ability to defend themselves, and at that point, might makes right. Anyone who's stronger, who has a greater propensity for evil, tends to run the show. And that's what we're seeing in many countries.
And I firmly am on the side of working together and celebrating our difference, because, you know, I was a community organizer a long, long time ago, and the strongest campaigns that we ever worked on were about bringing people of different faiths and different worldviews and different backgrounds together to find what we had in common. And at times like this, it makes me think of, you know, what happened with Jo Cox and her speech and that mantra that she had about more in common. We have more in common than that divides us. And that is the most true statement we can think of at very difficult, testing and anxiety-inducing times. And, you know, I wish the best for everybody watching who is feeling anxious, and I hope we do get some formal.
Yeah, so she says all that, and honestly, that doesn't bring back all these lives that were taken as a result of the extensive gun control that's been enforced in Australia, the mass migration that has been allowed to happen in Australia that has brought in people who essentially hate Australia and Australians and people who don't worship like them. Okay, let's just simply call a spade a spade. Now, this is not me drawing a dividing line. This is me simply calling balls and strikes. These are things that we can all see. We all see these things happen, and we're simply saying, hey, look, isn't that a red shirt? I didn't create the red shirt. I didn't sell it to the person. The person shows up in a red shirt, and I'm saying, that's a red shirt. And we're seeing that there are people who we don't label. We don't say, look, these people are hateful because we think they're hateful. We say these people are hateful because they do hateful things. A father and a son who believe a certain way leave the comfort of their home in a first world country, Australia, that they migrated to. Australia is meant to give them opportunities to grow families, to become prosperous, to have a good life. And what do they spend their time obsessing over? Paradise with big booty virgins who get who become virgins again each time you deflower them. They obsess over that, and in their heads they need to go get some, and then they pick up rifles and go to a beach where innocent people are celebrating a holiday, and then they begin to fire on innocent unarmed civilians because they want big booty virgins in paradise. Look, I didn't tell them to do that. I didn't come up with that idea. They have it in their book. They preach it all the time. They talk about it all the time. They talk about taking over the West all the time. So we're saying, hey, look, this is what they believe. And you know what? They're acting out what they believe. Now, here's the Prime Minister of Australia, a very disappointing character. He takes the opportunity to not talk about the tragedy that has been acted out by this group or by this ideology. Instead, he decides that this is a perfect time to take a swing at what he calls right-wing groups. I guess who he's talking about, okay? Just tell me who you think he's talking about in the chat or in the comment section.
We take ASIO's advice very seriously. We work closely with them. We receive regular updates as well. The Director General of ASIO has warned about a range of threats, be it anti-Semitism, the rise of right-wing extremist groups as well. And we continue to work closely with our security.
So who are the right-wing extremists? Someone tell me who they are. Clearly, he's not referring to the group or the religion that the father and son belong to. He's not, because that group of extremists or fundamentalists routinely attack right-wing people who identify as Christian. They do. It's a routine. It's expected. Okay? And whenever they start trying to twist themselves into a pretzel, trying to avoid calling out the obvious, it's obvious to everyone what they're trying not to say. Call out the crime. Call out the atrocity. Now, I'm not a bigot who wants to go after everyone who's a Muslim. No. And if you heard me carefully, I said fundamentalists, extremists. Now, one of the heroes of the day happens to be a Muslim. And here's a report from Fox News covering the heroic deed that he carried out while these insane demon-possessed individuals were killing Jews.
And you can see him running up to the attacker just before and wresting the gun from his hands. The bystander then points the weapon at the suspected shooter and throws an object at him before he finally walks away. Donations have been pouring in for the hero throughout his recovery from surgery.
So Ahmed El Ahmed, the Muslim who disarmed the assailant, told someone before he ran up to grab the gun, he says, "I'm going to die. Please tell my family and tell them that I went down to save people's lives." So I've said this again and again on this show, and I'll say it again tonight. There are people who don't believe the insanity of the extremists. They don't. But the crimes that these extremists have committed has essentially tainted the entire group. This is a Muslim who was selling fruit near the beach. He sees people getting slaughtered and then he takes down one of the shooters. All right. So, like I said, I'm only calling balls and strikes. I'm seeing something and I'm pointing it out. There are Muslims who don't believe in that insanity. Blow yourself up and get big booty virgins. Okay, that is seriously, seriously. Like I feel weird saying it. Okay, but that is what these people believe. People who act out like this. It is essentially a mental illness for you to take up arms to go after people because you want to spend eternity deflowering virgins. All right. If that isn't a tell me in the chat what you think of that idea. Okay. Because people make fun of Christians all the time. Oh yeah, you believe that when you die you go to a city in the clouds. Okay, they make fun of Christians all the time about that. Now compare what Christians believe and the world that Christians have created because of their beliefs. Look at Western civilization, everything that Christians have built as a result of what they believe, and then put it side by side with this belief system that says, blow yourself up, get big booty virgins that will be virgins for eternity and a river of wine in your backyard. Look, just tell me if you think, okay, that makes sense. Which of these is a healthier belief system to adopt? Okay, just let me know in the chat. Now, with all of that going on, we have Hamas supporters disrupting vigils for the Bondi Beach massacre. Look, when we talk about people who are unhinged and unwell, okay, this is the kind of people that we refer to. People are grieving. It's like what happened with Charlie Kirk. We'll continue to raise it because it is indicative of the kind of ideologies and belief systems these people have. You have people who are in mourning, having vigils, and trying to, have a peaceful time of remembrance of someone that they love. And then you have these unhinged individuals doing this.
Get out of here. It's not appropriate. Take it off of video.
So essentially, they don't think that it's appropriate to mourn for the murder of people who just wanted to have a holiday. Let me know in the chat your thoughts on the stories that we've covered so far. I'm looking at a world where individuals walk into a library, execute someone who happens to be the leader of one of the only conservative groups in the school, execution style, and then the school conveniently has no footage of the assailant, where the school is filled with over 800 cameras, not one footage. Okay, can you make that make sense? And now we're over 72 hours in and still nothing yet on the shooter. Okay. Someone explained that to me. And of course, the students said that this individual screamed Allahu Akbar. And news outlets don't want us to hear that bit. They want us to assume that he was crying out that it's cloudy with a chance of rain. that I think is what they want us to believe he was saying while he was firing on the students. Okay, whenever we hear someone screamed something, it's very clear what they scream, because people don't just go out to commit murder and scream something. Okay, we know who usually does the screaming and what they usually scream. So why are we getting um gaslit to believe that this was someone who was screaming, "Ow, my butt's on fire," and while he was firing a rifle? Is that what he was screaming? Look, it's high time that we begin to call this insanity out and just put it in its place. Let me know what you think in the chat. While we go into the chat, we're going to essentially just have a conversation, and then let's see. Canarikin says greetings. And Canarikin says, what's the deal with Bondi Beach? Okay, you didn't hear the news. At Bondi Beach, a gunman, I played the video earlier, a gunman and his son, well, both of them were gunmen, decided that they were going to fire on Jews who were celebrating the first day of Hanukkah at the beach in Australia. 15 people dead, including a 10-year-old girl. Okay. Oh, actually, I think it's 16 based on the report. The 10-year-old girl and 15 others killed. Okay. And then, of course, you saw the other bits of the news. So that's what happened with the Bondi Beach situation. Okay. Kanariki said, slow down, please. Christians didn't create Greece or Rome. The basis of Western civilization, the Dark Ages, was a Christian era. No, it wasn't. The Dark Ages were not a Christian era per se. Okay. I will gladly have this conversation with anyone, and it has to be a very, very tidy conversation. Okay. Every popular movement has people who latch on to the popular movement because of power and influence. And the rise of the church also had those people latch on to the power of the Christian faith and how it had gone mainstream and was well favored by kings and nobles. And the Dark Ages was essentially a time where people who I would not even call Christians were taking advantage of that power in order to exert control. Okay, so anyone who essentially wanted to challenge their interpretation of scriptures, anyone who wanted to challenge their hold on culture or tradition, got burnt at the stake. There was the Inquisitions. There were all of those things that happened as a result of those people insinuating themselves into Christian authority and then carrying out the corruption in their hearts. All right. So whenever people bring up the Dark Ages, it is looked at from the standpoint of this was a thing that happened with the church. Christians need to understand how the Dark Ages came about. All right. So this is not the place to have that conversation, but I'll be glad to have that conversation at a different time. Just to clarify things. I am not a Christian apologist. I'm a Christian. I do my own research. I read. I try to figure out what my convictions are, and I stand on my convictions based on wisdom and information and lots of history. So so whenever I sprinkle these things out there, it's not just me putting out an ideology. I have done my research. Canadian says, just want to be accurate here, not putting down your beliefs of faith. Happy your beliefs renew you. Yes, my beliefs do renew me, but when you look at Western civilization did not emerge until the rise of the Christian kings, essentially. Okay. People look back romantically at Greece and Rome. The Roman Empire failed and then went into the Christian era with the rise of Constantine, okay, who became the first Christian ruler of the Roman Empire. And then it morphed into, it branched into all the other expressions of Christian kingdoms going forward with Charlemagne and so on. So it's a very deep conversation to be had. But then again, whenever I refer to Western civilization, I'm looking at the modern era. I'm not looking at, I don't even consider the Dark Ages a core part of the forming of Western civilization. I look at it as one of the springboards, okay, because the Dark Ages morphed into a season when I think that was when the Renaissance came up, and then from the Renaissance we went into the renewal, or let's say where the Protestant church was born with Martin Luther, and then the Gutenberg press was born, and then wisdom was being put in the hands of regular people. That was where teachings and the Bibles were being printed, and more people had access to this. So I'm sorry, but I'm trying to cut this short. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but it's just some of the things that I think about whenever I think of Western civilization. Okay, I'll take you on that topic also. Let's put it Dark Age. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about Dark Ages. But like I always try to let you guys know, I'm not like an expert or an apologist. I just learn stuff, I talk about it, and I tell you, hey, this is what forms my understanding of things. And we just move forward with that. All right. All right. So guys, I will be cutting short. Well, the live streams now will be I'll be aiming for 40 minutes maximum for the live streams, so that I don't go long-winded, and I just keep them short and sweet. We can have conversations in the chat based on the stories. So if you want to talk about some of the reports, the topics, the stories that we've covered today, you can put them down in the chat. Now, I have several comments. I didn't bring them into the interface, so they will not be showing up on the screen. Okay. Patricia says, "So thankful your family member is safe." All right, because this was the live stream I did on Saturday. I talked about the Brown shooting as it happened. Epstein is not going to produce what the Democrats want against Trump. It can backfire on them with top Democrats being dragged into the whole mess. Like I said before, they will never get anyone sent to jail until the victims file lawsuits. Yeah, so Epstein is yet brought up by the Democrats. They want us to believe that the pictures that they redacted themselves were of underage women, but this was a picture that had been released 10 years before. Tucker Trucker Patriot, Tucker Trucker Patriot 3112 says, still on the same live stream from Saturday, the police don't know poop. The president of Brown doesn't know poop. Medical staff don't know poop. All these people are being told not to talk. That is why nobody knows poop. WTF is wrong with the world. Exactly. We still don't have video. We still don't have anything concrete to say this is what happened. And it's crazy. All right. So Trucker Patriot 312. Look, I'm with you on that. And then Latamenon 6758, still on the same live stream, said this. Brown, okay, so I'm reluctant to read this out because it can be triggering to people, so I'm going to leave it. If you want to figure out what I refuse to read, go look at that video, the last live stream, and read the chat, the comments. His comment is it's like pouring salt on a wound. I don't want to read it out loud. All right, guys, I've cleared up the comments, and I would love for you to let me know your thoughts about the stories that we've covered so far. It is interesting to see what's going on in the world and then try to make sense of it. Sometimes there's no sense that can be made of it. All we can do is pray. All we can do is, ask for clarity. For me, like Canary King said, my faith and my beliefs strengthen me. It helps me make sense of the world. Okay. Yes, I come up here and I say what's going on with the world. But according to the scriptures, I know exactly what's going on with the world. Men and women everywhere are born with deep evil in their hearts. Every single person. Even the baby born a few moments ago has evil in their hearts. And that is why we all need a savior. And that savior is Jesus. Okay. Now, you may not agree. That's fine. But it is my experience that everyone who has made a decision to follow Jesus experiences deep and lasting peace. And it's not a crutch. It isn't a crutch. If you truly decide that you want to follow Jesus and you want to understand how the world works and why the world is so broken, right? That is the reality that you will find in the scriptures and in the teachings of Christ. So just make up your mind. Look, you can choose to explore this and follow Jesus, or you can choose to follow the realities that you understand. I mean, that's fine, but this is what I believe. And as much as the world is broken and people are trying to make sense of it all, I want to let you know that there's an answer out there. Right. So thank you all for joining me on this Monday night live stream. We are going to be back tomorrow at noon Eastern, and we're going to be aiming for making the live streams as succinct and as targeted as we possibly can. Possibly, if there is a segment for, just engaging in a chat or a conversation, maybe we can figure out how to make that happen. We want to shorten this so that the experience for people who are rewatching the live stream can be more manageable. There are people who see the live stream, and when they see an unwieldy 1 hour live stream or a 1 hour and 59-minute live stream, they feel like they're not willing to invest that much time into watching the content. So we want to just manage our live streams better, manage the content better, manage the engagement better. And then you let me know what you think in the chat or in the comment section. And as always, do consider sending us an email. Send an email to the email on the screen. The email on the screen goes straight into my inbox. Let me know your thoughts on the topics that we're covering. Let me know your thoughts on certain topics you may want us to cover. If you want to send a word of encouragement to us, okay, and I say us, the royal us, you can go ahead and do that. If you want to essentially rant, well, I might ignore your email because I will only listen to things that are constructive. If it is something that is constructive and is helpful for the channel, I will listen and I'll make corrections. Canary King is a testament to that. He has made corrections to the live stream and he's seen me act out these corrections in real time. But if it is just to bellyache and to essentially insult the channel and insult me, well, I will simply look at the content, gloss over it, and ignore it. But I do want to connect with you. So please, if you enjoyed what you just saw tonight, consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. Hit the bell icon when you subscribe. And please hit the like button and let YouTube know that they can send this live stream and other videos in my channel or on my channel to people just like you. Thank you for being a part of tonight's live stream. I will be seeing you tomorrow at noon Eastern, and also we'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. So until then, God bless you, and I'll see you on the next one. Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views.
We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching headlines and history. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.